What is up, guys? Ian here. Welcome to Brokenomics. Today, in this interview with Scott Walker, we cover Casperlabs, investing in the crypto space, and his crypto perfect storm theory. If you don't know him, Scott's an absolutely fascinating character. He was CEO and founder of Atrinsic, which later became a NASDAQ listed company. He is, of course, the co founder of Casperlabs. He was an early investor in projects like LiveLeak.com and TeenSafe, and he was also involved in the first ever ICO. So, yeah, I began by asking Scott, with all this in mind, what in the hell he was doing in the comment section of our first ever video when we had about 5 subscribers and 20 views.
Oh, great question. I'm I really love Casper and the Casper Labs team. It's obviously one of my most substantial investments. I've spent years of my life kind of curating the team, helping bring in new investors, and I'm just kind of all over. I'm all over Casper Labs and the Casper team. It's one of my favorite things.
So, following you on Twitter, Scott, like you're obviously a guy who decentralization is really important to you and you're very passionate about blockchain, as are a lot of the people, or all of the people, I guess, who watch our videos. So, you have a thesis called the Crypto Perfect Storm thesis. Could you talk a little bit about that and how it might help people who are viewing this video to actually get involved in an industry that they're really passionate about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, starting off, the way that I got into crypto really was I did some. I started a software company. I sold it in 2007. I met my friend and business partner Brock Pierce, and a few years later, we had been doing like angel investing in a bunch of different companies. Nothing that really mattered, nothing meaningful. But in 2012, we decided to start mining Bitcoin. Brock went on to be on the foundation of to be the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation. And I was always kind of like the guy in the background. And so for years and years, I've been really investing and watching the whole crypto market. And I've kind of come up with a thesis on what we have. And I think it's really interesting. And I hope you guys are able to spend some time and some of your listeners can learn about it. What I'm basically saying is don't miss out on this upcoming 50 to 100 trillion dollar crypto market. Um, and the way I like to start it off is this storm actually started off with three of what I call kind of like the table legs. This is why it originally crashed and almost we felt like it was going to die. So what happened first was back in 2009, Satoshi opened up Pandora's box, and he created, or she, or they created an immutable blockchain. They called it Bitcoin, and it was just a marvel of technology, science, and game theory that I think is probably one of the most important inventions in the last 100 years. Then a few years later, actually 2013, my friend that I just told you about and business partner, Brock, created the first stable coin called Tether. Um, about a year later, in 2014, Vitalik taught us the value of smart contracts on top of a blockchain. So over the next couple of years, thousands and thousands of people began building applications, exchanges, and other useful projects on top of these different blockchains. And then fast forward to 2017, we saw this speculative bubble driven by a bunch of retail investors, and we lived through the ICO boom. We watched the entire crypto market basically grow from almost zero to close to $1 trillion in value. And then, of course, the market crashed. We didn't know exactly why, but suddenly ICOs were no good. Nobody needed Bitcoin. Ethereum was useless. And the whole value of a stable coin made absolutely no sense. It looked to some of us like the market was going to die. It was literally going to die. But what we learned and we found out was that everything changed. And this actually occurred on Tuesday, August 11th. Okay. Now, on Tuesday, August 11th, is when a new creation kind of came about. And this was something called an automated market maker. And what happened was this automated market maker was created by Hayden Adams at Uniswap. And it allowed something to occur that we'd never actually seen before. Now, basically any person or any two people could create something called a liquidity pool using any two cryptos. So if you wanted to, you could put Bitcoin into a pool with Tether, or you could put Ethereum next to USDC. So suddenly, anytime somebody decided to trade Bitcoin for Tether or Ethereum for USDC, or you name it, you could take any two crypto assets, create a pool, and if somebody decided to trade one for the other in any direction, the pool automatically reset itself, charged a small fee, and somehow the fourth leg of this table that was necessary to create this perfect storm was built. Now, this happened late in 2018, okay, right in the middle of the biggest bear market we'd ever seen. We had gone from $1,400 Ethereum down to $100. I think it actually got all the way down to about $88 or $90 Ethereum. Bitcoin had gone from 20,000 down to about, I think it dropped to around 3,000 at the time. Yeah. And suddenly, while the market was at its worst, people were building and creating. And now we had Bitcoin, which kind of began serving as kind of like the default currency of the crypto ecosystem, followed by stable coins. First, it was Tether, then it was USDC, then GUSD, then Frax, and now, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of stable coins. Then we found lots and lots of new interesting competitors to Ethereum, which still doesn't scale. We'll kind of get into that part of the conversation later. And last but not least, when Uniswap launched, it really opened up this new piece of the puzzle, or this new fourth, I call it the fourth leg of this table, and that's DeFi. And decentralized finance has changed everything. And it works perfectly with the other pieces of that puzzle, or those four legs of the table. It's my belief that sometime within the next 5 years, I'm really, really confident it'll be within 10, but I think it could be as soon as 5. We're going to see somewhere between 50 to $100 trillion worth of value created, more or less evenly split between Bitcoin, which I think will end up with a 10 to 20 trillion dollar market cap.
Sorry, Scott. What price would Bitcoin be at for $20 trillion then?
Well, think of it right now. Bitcoin is right around $1 trillion at 40,000. There's 20 million Bitcoin. Yeah. And so at $50,000, 20 million Bitcoin is $1 trillion. So if you 10x the value of Bitcoin at 50, today with the market crash, it's probably down to 30 or 32. But just averaging it at 50,000, you've got $1 trillion network. Okay. Yeah. So at $500,000, Bitcoin is a $10 trillion asset. That maybe it never gets above that. I don't know, but I could definitely see Bitcoin hitting 10 trillion. I believe that all the smart contract platforms in the world, it's not winner take all, but it's definitely winner take most. It'll probably be Ethereum, but there will be a number of other smaller competitors along there where there's going to be trillions and trillions of dollars in value and assets locked on top of those blockchains. Then on top of that, you're going to see stable coins. And those stable coins are really providing a lot of the liquidity pairs between all of these different cryptos, so that when institutions want to be in crypto, maybe they'll be holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, other assets, and when they want to move back and forth, they'll use stable coins. So you'll no longer see $50,000 trading from one side to the other. You'll see $50 billion trading between stable to Bitcoin, stable to ETH, stable to Uniswap or SushiSwap, or all of the DEXs and all of the different layers that are built on top of the DeFi platforms. So in my vision, somewhere between 5 and 10 years from now, you'll see $10 trillion market caps in stablecoins, Bitcoin, smart contract platforms, and then all of the DeFi things. That includes NFTs, that includes DEXs, that includes all of the different assets that are kind of being, traded back and forth underneath these different, applications. There's still, there's security token exchanges. There's a million different things that have yet to be created that we don't even understand, that, in my opinion, will lead to a 50 trillion or larger marketplace. And I hope that you and your listeners are all part of this. The future doesn't belong to shiny metal rocks and fiat currencies. The future belongs to Bitcoin, crypto, digital stable dollars, things like that. And that's where I think the future lies. So there is my call it my perfect storm thesis on crypto.
Yeah, fascinating. So there's the 4 legs of the table. You got the Bitcoin, the smart contracts, the DeFi, and the stablecoins.
Yeah. So those are what I consider the 4 categories, and there's a bunch of subcategories.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, you'll notice that I didn't even include something like, I don't know, Coinbase. Coinbase is like $100 billion exchange. It's just an exchange.
Yeah.
And Binance, and there's a lot of those guys. I think those will all become part of the DeFi ecosystem.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I like to kind of dig into my personal favorite, and that is smart contract platforms. I call myself a recovering Bitcoin maximalist. And I'll explain
You're not recovering very well.
I'm a former Bitcoin maximalist, and what happened to me was I read about it in 2011. I thought it was interesting and cool. I'm not a real technologist. I have a background in software, but really just from being an entrepreneur. I don't understand how to code. I wouldn't know what Python is compared to a real Python. And so, I don't know coding language. So I fell in love with the tech. I loved the idea that anyone could pick up a computer and begin mining Bitcoin. And so decentralization really kind of captured my imagination. And I believe that Bitcoin was all that would ever be. And so I focused everything on Bitcoin. And a couple of years after I started, I stopped mining and I didn't know what to do with my Bitcoin. So I started investing it into other, what we call today shitcoins, with the hope of doubling up my Bitcoin, or making a return on my Bitcoin investment. And I kind of figured, I was pretty smart. I understood investing a little bit, and if I went ahead and kept this, I could continue increasing my Bitcoin holdings without continuing to mine, because I recognized that mining was it's a fool's errand. I can go into why.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be very interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it's a fool's errand. The main reason why, it's actually very simple. You have two different participants in the mining of Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies. You have the manufacturers who build the machines, and then you have the chumps, the customers who buy the machines from the manufacturers. Okay. So now, if you're a manufacturer, you have the best price. You get the machines ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
You get to do whatever you want to with those machines for as long as you want to with those machines. And then when you decide, you sell them for a profit to the next guy down the line. Okay.
Yeah.
So my simplest answer to anyone who asks me, well, what do you think about mining? It is a way for it's a way for entrepreneurs to feel good that they're going to beat the system. And we all, like millions of us, have that in our hearts.
That is absolutely my lifeblood. You're speaking.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyone that has experience doing it typically shares my understanding. You could have bought Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum or anything else you wanted for cheaper than you did mining it. Okay. If you were a manufacturer, potentially you made out. If you bought the Bitcoin mining equipment at the right time and you got rid of it at the right time, you also might have made out, but probably not. It's almost guaranteed you do better off, just buying it on your own, unless you manufacture this stuff. In which case, you're making money this way, you're making money that way. You're making money all, in all different ways. You can choose to sell all your equipment, mine all of it, whatever you choose. You actually control your destiny. As a buyer of equipment, you don't. So I recognized that by 2013 when I took my mining equipment and literally threw them in dumpsters. That's literally what we did. There was nothing else to do with them. So once I made a couple of investments, some were okay, some were not great. But then I really I didn't understand what a smart contract was, but I knew that that Russian kid was really, really smart. So when Vitalik announced Ethereum, my partners and I made a big bet, and we bought lots and lots of Ethereum. And it's just another shitcoin. It really didn't mean anything to me. So as soon as Ethereum started trading a little over a year later at about $1, I sold almost all my Ethereum. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit, which means I made more Bitcoin like I had hoped.
Yeah.
But I also, at the end of the day, I watched 250,000 Ethereum tokens, currently worth about $500 billion, turn into 500 grand worth of Bitcoin, which, don't get me wrong, was still a good bet.
Yeah.
But when you miss when you miss a $500 million trade, you think about that.
Yeah.
And so I recognized at some point, watching Ethereum and the ecosystem built around Ethereum roll up into a multi-$100 billion marketplace, I realized there does appear to be something more to this entire market than only Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I became fascinated with smart contract platforms. I made a lot of investments into, really interesting ones. I bet pretty big on Hashgraph. I bet decent sized bet on Solana. And I basically went all in on Casper and Casperlabs. And I just fell in love with that team. I fell in love with that technology, and it's just kind of been like my favorite thing to work on for the last few years.
Well, that's fantastic, and I think we can dig into the technology of Casper a little later on, maybe the way they're solving the triumvirate issue with their technology, with as Marinov I think described it, good old fashioned engineering mixed with a proof of stake system. So in terms of Casper Labs, then it really, that quote from you about if I pull it up here, the my specialities include developing strategies to help companies develop decentralized solutions for real world opportunities. So that's something that really sticks with me in the way I'm trying to invest in crypto and carry it out. So a project like Centrifuge really interests me, a real.
I don't know it. I don't know it. It sounds interesting.
Check it out. It's to do with the average cost of capital for small and medium-sized enterprises being around 15%, and using DeFi pools to actually provide short-term loans to these that are collateralized in a special purpose vehicle. To actually hold the deeds to things like invoices or whatever they might decide to use as collateral. Other stuff that's fun to invest in, stuff you understand, right? So like I have a background in gambling. I played poker for a long time for a living, so sort of gamifying DeFi and stuff like that, and gambling things I'm certainly interested in. But in terms of Casper, it is a blockchain for business, and trying to bridge that blockchain technology to real world business. Which sectors or industries do you see as particularly ones you need to target in doing that?
Well, I mean, great question. I definitely believe that there is a time and place where you can get enterprises onto blockchain. To date, this hasn't really happened. Companies have played around with it. IBM signed a deal with Hyperledger, kind of like a private. Basically, it's not even really a blockchain. It's basically a private database, and it's garbage. IBM's leaving, and maybe going to other, let's call them fully decentralized blockchains. But so there's been such a small amount of real and when I say institutions or enterprises, it's really enterprises that have not entered the crypto space yet, and there's so many interesting opportunities around them. So institutional investments have begun, obviously. Tens of billions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars have already been invested in Bitcoin ecosystem, in smart contract platforms, in DeFi platforms. Hundreds of billions for sure. It's it's a giant industry, but the time is right to actually begin to onboard governments and enterprises onto blockchains. And I think that it's likely that the Casper network is probably best suited of any blockchain ever created. And I mean, the high level reason why I believe that this is the chain for me. Like I said, I became a huge fan of Ethereum. It's painful to watch all of your potential gains, but I kept a lot of Ethereum. I actually made more profit on Ethereum than anything else I've ever done in my entire life.
Nice.
It changed my life.
And isn't that crazy? It's your best trade ever and your worst trade ever at the same time.
Yeah, no, literally. Yeah. Had I kept it all, luckily I kept just enough to run it and watch it run up to $1,000, back down, and then up to 3,000 or 4,000. And so it's been a love-hate relationship, but mostly love. Yeah. And so I also recognized, and I've been very involved in following the Ethereum scaling issues.
Yeah.
And because I believe that smart contract platforms are a thing, and I believe that they're a category unto themselves. DeFi doesn't work without a smart contract platform.
Absolutely.
Smart contract platforms have use cases, but good Lord, DeFi is a giant one. And so watching how much Ethereum has grown and recognizing the difficulty in taking a proof of work network like Ethereum and somehow turning it around and almost like via magic into a proof of stake network is a computer science thing that has never happened before in the history of the world. And it's possible that Vitalik is the smartest human being on planet Earth. If there's one person that can kind of make it work, it's him. But even with his brain power and the amount of brilliant geniuses working on Ethereum, it could have difficulty doing it.
Yeah.
So what basically happened was, and I'll give you the quick background story on Ethereum and Casper, and why the name Casper is so meaningful in this ecosystem, at least to me. What does, and so I'll ask you this question: what does the word Casper mean to you in the blockchain?
Well, if he's the friendly ghost, I mean, you know, he's there, he's helping you out, but you can't see him. I don't know.
That's good. But I'll give you the background on it. It's actually a really fascinating background story. Okay. So back in 2014, a couple of Israeli researchers published a paper pointing out a giant flaw in proof of stake blockchains. And as early as 2014, Vitalik, who is a super genius, already recognized that Ethereum was not going to be able to scale. So this first massive scaling problem is something called Ghost, the greediest, heaviest observed subtree, stands for Ghost. And Vitalik's researchers came up with a friendly solution to the Ghost problem, and they called it Casper. So under Vitalik's guidance, there was a proposal made to scale Ethereum using this thing called Casper. And fast forward to 2017, a white paper was drafted by some of the ETH researchers, and it proposed changing Ethereum to a proof of stake network. And they presented Vitalik with this proposal. And unfortunately, Vitalik was left with a choice. He had to shut down the Ethereum network and relaunch with this new one. And if you remember Ethereum in 2017, that would not have been an easy thing to do. You can't just shut down this giant network. Too much was happening. So Vitalik created something called FFG Casper. FFG stands for Friendly Finality Gadget. And it's basically a long-term solution to slowly go from proof of work into proof of stake. And Vitalik has said he wants CBC Casper, which is the technology that our team has created, to eventually be incorporated into Ethereum. So what happened was Renal, the Casperlabs CEO, he's a computer scientist from Carnegie Mellon.
I know, you should have put that on your marketing materials for the ICO.
Oh, it's, he doesn't like to brag about himself. But Renal is a super genius. Okay.
Yeah.
He graduated from Carnegie Mellon, one of the top computer science schools in the world, and was working on his PhD when he was recruited to go to work for Bain Capital. Okay. And he left to go to Wall Street. So, I mean, this guy has like an incredible background, and he came to me. We met in 2017, and he said, Scott, there's this technology out there that I'm dying to build called CBC Casper. It's the most important technology. It's the most important blockchain technology anyone's ever proposed. It was proposed for Ethereum, and I don't know if they'll ever be able to launch it. I hope that they can, but they might not. And I think we can build it. Will you help? And he was so, I mean, he's just so smart. And, he had me so convinced in the tech and his ability that I agreed. Together, we ended up going out, and over a couple of years, we raised a little less than, I guess, $80 million to kind of create this this platform. We went out and we hired like an amazing team of engineers all across the world, led by Dr. Daniel Kane.
Yeah, I hope he wasn't too pissed off with the little meme thing we made of him in the video, but it was just a bit of fun.
No, not at all, not at all. I think he takes it all with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
You know, recognize, he is a PhD, a multi-PhD. I mean, one of the top computer scientists in the world, one of the top mathematicians in the world. And the fact that Meta was able to get him to actually write the consensus algorithm to make this proposed concept. Make no mistake, CBC Casper was a proposed concept. It was not provably live. It was not provably safe. Without Dr. Kane, I don't think this thing exists. Munib Ali, another famous computer scientist, double PhD from, maybe Stanford or Harvard. I mean, like a top 5 school. Yeah. He showed the flaw in CBC Casper, and Dr. Kane solved it. He solved the problem. So what our team created at Casperlabs is nothing short of like, it's legendary. It's incredible what they have. I'm definitely the wrong guy to kind of get into the tech.
Do you know what though? In a lot of ways, you're actually kind of the right guy, because often you can interview people and they get so bogged down in the tech, they struggle to articulate the vision.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. Yeah. I get lost in the weeds listening to a lot of the super geniuses when they talk.
Yeah. I mean, when we were researching for the Casper video, we went through Google Scholar and looked at Dr. Daniel Kane's articles and like theses he'd written whilst in university and doing his doctorate, etc. Like, I'd be fairly mathematically minded. Like, I did engineering and stuff like that. Like, I'd be okay. I struggle to understand some of the titles. Like, forget what it was about. Like, just
there's levels. Stuff. There's levels to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I will say, one thing I will say is, I have a cursory, high-level understanding of kind of, sorta, how this stuff works. Clearly, I can't articulate the tech, but I can at least, kind of explain the high level. And, at the end of the day, Casper and the Casper blockchain, with some of the features that it is, it's fully decentralized.
Yeah.
It's completely scalable, and it's provably safe. I don't know anything else out there similar to that. Other guys will make arguments. Well, this one's this and this one's that. But what I can tell you is there's a reason that Vitalik has really committed to CBC Casper as what he wants Ethereum to become.
In terms of the real world solutions then that Casper can provide, which industries and sectors do you see them being in?
Well, I mean, obviously our main goal is enterprise on blockchain. We feel that we're perfectly positioned to help enterprises incorporate blockchain into their, and again, every enterprise is different. FedEx is different than UPS. UPS is different than General Motors. You know what I mean? And so there's governments, there's enterprises, and make no mistake, DeFi is an enterprise platform. DeFi is important to any smart contract platform. If you don't have DeFi, you're missing out on $1 trillion market. It's going to be absolutely huge. So everybody that has a smart contract platform is making a run for DeFi. We believe that we'll be able to capture major banking institutions and major financial institutions. So that's what Casper's target is.
So yeah, one thing, Scott, like I often think about when I'm trying to value a project and decide whether to invest in it, and a lot of the things we see, people look at fully diluted market cap and circulating supply market cap. Now, in terms of circulating supply, the market's a discounting mechanism, it's forward looking. So I don't really see circulating supply market cap as that relevant, particularly when more tokens are coming into the market at quite a steep rate in the first few years of projects. But then also when you look at the fully diluted market cap, that could be 10, 12, 15 years away. So I don't see that as particularly accurate. Let's not say relevant, but accurate either. In your time as a VC, you set up various funds. Have you guys found a better way to value projects?
God, thank you for asking that question. It absolutely, I don't know a better way of doing it than fully diluted market cap. I don't know a better way because, circulating, it's variable. And a lot of times, circulating is circulating one day and, non-circulating later. So it's a really hard thread to, it's a really hard needle to thread. When I look at things, I've been most successful looking at fully diluted market cap, trying to get in on the lower market cap, fully diluted projects.
Yeah.
But having said that, I remember when Ethereum came out, and it was it was like they were raising $18 million, which seemed crazy to me at the time, and there was no cap on how many tokens they would produce. We were looking at Bitcoin with 21 million only ever, and Ethereum had 100 million, and they were just going to keep doing it more and more and more. And so it made no sense. So
shout out to Iron Finance.
Yeah, I was right. So I was nervous about investing at I think the buy price was like 18 or 22 cents, in Ethereum. So good grief, man. It for me, it's fully diluted. I don't really care about circulating supply. And I try my best to find the best value that I can while still finding the best overall projects.
Yeah, I think the best thing, like I always look at fully diluted as well, but if you get to the graphs of the token release supplies, I always try to find the point that the slope of the graph levels off significantly. And I think that's also an important number to look at.
Yeah, but then, a lot of times for instance, Solana is the perfect example. We were so scared to buy more because of, they had a huge supply increase coming up in I forget when it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
But what nobody knew was they had massive investors buying up all of that stuff and locking it up for long term. So it went right up after the release of all that stuff. So yeah,
you didn't know that. I would have thought you were one of the I would have thought you were one of the big dogs in these kind of. Do you know what I mean?
Not like the funds. You know what I mean?
Okay.
FTX is a big dog. I'm just, I invest, larger than $10,000-$20,000, but I don't invest $10-20 million. Okay. Like big funds are.
I'd liken you to my Jack Russell Terrier. Then you punch above your weight.
Way above. Yeah.
So then just briefly then as well, are you exclusively looking at early stage projects like where you can get in the door really early, or are you also sort of saying, let's say, there's something already in the top 100, but you really like the look of what they're doing? Will you also allocate, let's say, a reasonable amount of capital towards those projects as well? Definitely. That are in the later stages?
I'm a huge believer in uni and sushi. I think those things are so ridiculously undervalued. I'm constantly accumulating. I wouldn't call it just going all in, but I'm constantly accumulating of projects that I think are, I guess you'd call them undervalued relative to Ripple, for instance.
Okay.
It gets silly. Some of these things obviously get silly. So I consider
I think the internet computer at $600 billion was a
exactly yeah.
Or sorry, 270 billion it was at a $600 price point, which was just absurd.
Of course.
So Scott, we mentioned hedge funds there, and I think a lot of retail investors would be quite well served by allocating a portion of their capital towards these crypto hedge funds. But what are your views on it? Like, are the barriers to entry too high for the average investor? Are there reputable hedge funds that, you or me, or, well, not you, me, can get into?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would honestly say, um, find hedge funds. They're typically the successful ones are managed by the smartest investors in the space. I've personally invested in 6 or 7 different funds. Starting in, oh gosh, Blockchain Capital was the first one that I invested in back in 2014 or 2013. On to Deos and Coral Capital and Multicoin and like literally five or six different ones. I'm like at this point, I'm a huge believer in DeFi. Stay in the space. There's a lot of great new DeFi funds coming on board that you can probably find with lower buy-in prices than the Panteras and the Blockchain Capitals are probably at this point they're probably 250,000 minimum, or maybe even 500,000 minimums. So
well,
you can.
You know what? If we'll definitely have a look for those and try to drop links in the description. But if you do think of any after the vid, just drop me a DM on Twitter.
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer. Let those guys earn their 20% and work with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess actually you probably covered these, but I'm guessing your answers are going to be BTC, ETH, Uniswap, SushiSwap, and number one Casper. But maybe apart from those 5, if you had to pick 3 projects to invest in crypto today, what would they be?
Oh boy, the 3 projects today.
And you're not allowed to say those 5 because it's pretty clear they're your favorites, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we have my favorites. Okay, hang on. Let me look at some of the things that I'm looking at currently that I love. I've always loved Vesper. It's a great DeFi play. I've always loved FXS or Frax, which is a DeFi play. And you know what I also believe in? I believe that Polkadot, it's a monster. It's probably, if layer 2 actually does kind of connect everything up together, even at a super high valuation like it has, I think Polkadot, could be one of the big winners. So Dot, Vesper, Frax, I'm invested in all of them. So I'm definitely, this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion. You asked. Those are some of my favorites. They're fairly mid-sized market caps, low to mid-size, other than Polkadot, which is a blue chip.
Yeah.
But those are like 5 to 8 of my favorite projects.
Yeah, and the way you say it there, you believe in them. So this is obviously a long-term thing for you, which is good advice for people watching. Always know your time frame.
Yep. Yeah, I guarantee you that I will have all of those tokens in my wallet if we do this again next year.
Well, I hope we do. I mean, Jesus, learned absolutely so much from you, Scott. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know you're in a rush, but just thanks a million for taking the time. And, for first of all, watching a video with about 20 views and 5 subscribers or whatever it was. But yeah, cheers. Thanks a million. Just genuinely.
Loved your video, loved your work. Thanks very much for bringing me on. And I hope we do good.
Yeah, I'm sure we all will. Cheers, man.
Take care.
Good luck.